Hey everyone, it's Katie from Katie's Scrappy Studio, and coming up is a tutorial that I am doing, not really for. I asked her if I could do the video version of her tutorial. Her name is Lisa from her blog, What a Beautiful Mess, and she has amazing stuff on that blog. You really got to check it out, and I will link to it, of course, to her blog and then to the tutorial itself. So you guys are in for a treat with this project, and I really hope you guys get some use out of it. So let's get started. I know a lot of people use Scrabble tiles, real Scrabble tiles, to do this, but for your YouTube name or your blog name in my case, and this is just faux Scrabble tiles. I didn't really know where our Scrabble game was, and even if I did, it's a really old game, sentimental, and I didn't want to take the tiles from it. So this is my faux Scrabble tile, and I use pop dots on mine. And so I emailed Lisa through scrapbook.com, thank you, and that site has done so much for me. But I emailed her, or messaged her, and was able to get her permission to do the video tutorial on her tutorial. So I'm going to show you another thing I did with it. Use these as thank you cards. And this one I didn't use pop dots, I just used a lot of, actually this one I used foam mounting tape, outdoor mounting tape, because I'm out of pop dots. And then this is where I used 3 layers of chipboard to make them ultra thick and make them really seem authentic. See if I can get back far enough. And this is a layout that I lifted from Lisa as well. And she has this really cool envelope tutorial, which I'll link to. It's a faux envelope, and I don't know if you can really tell because I didn't outline it very well. It's much better seen in person. But she has these cool tears that she does. Hers look a lot better than mine. But she has this envelope here with this faux closure, and it's just it was a really cool layout, and I really liked the idea of it, so I lifted it. And this is from the Super Bowl this year. It was held in Indianapolis, if you don't remember, and I live in Indianapolis, the suburbs, and so the Friday before the Super Bowl, we went downtown, me and a couple friends, and we had a great time just hanging out. And I can't remember what XLVI is, the actual number. I just know the Roman numerals. I don't know exactly the number. It was Super Bowl 40 something. I could figure it out because I know my dad was 10 or 11 the first Super Bowl. So, but I don't have time to figure that math out in my head right now. So I just did, that's the title of this, and this was sometime in February. So that's the layout that I used it on. So I just wanted to show you the versatility of this. And she used hers in I think it was like some kind of a shadow box type deal. It was one of those boxes that has a lot of different size squares and rectangles in it. I can't remember the name of it. I have yet to do one of those. But let me just go ahead real quick and go through the supply list. On her blog, in the tutorial, she has a link to the file where you will have all these letters. And they're all the letters that actually come with a Scrabble game, I think, because there's a lot of duplicates so that you can get a lot of use out of one printing. And there's 3 pages, and here's one here. And my pages are all cut up because I've just cut out certain letters instead of doing what her tutorial is, which is what I'm going to do. And that's all the letters, and obviously this won't be me doing every single letter here. But I'm just going to get started and show you guys how it works. So you're going to need the file, and I will go ahead and I will link you to her blog. You'll have to get the link from her blog. You're going to need some kind of ink. I picked archival because it won't smear, and that's important because we're going to be using glossy accents or glossy Mod Podge, and that's important so that you get the wooden texture, the silky, the smooth texture over the top. And you're going to need some kind of adhesive. I'm using matte Mod Podge, but you can use any kind of wet glue. And I would recommend a wet glue because it seems to have a more permanent hold than the dry adhesives. An inking tool for the ink. Oops. A foam brush for the glue, and a paintbrush for your glossy accents. Or if you're using Mod Podge, you might want to use a foam brush instead, a brayer or a bone folder, and chipboard. I'm going to do several layers of chipboard on mine, but I'm just going to do one layer on in this one. So the first thing that I am going to do, pull this down here and get this table close to you guys, is I'm going to cut out this entire row right here and get these A's and E's ready to be used for next time. And this is what her tutorial shows you how to do. Cut them all out at first, and then as you need them, go back and look through your letters. I decided to just do at first to just pick out the letters I wanted instead of doing all of them. But okay, so you're gonna cut out an entire row like that. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put some adhesive down on our chipboard. If I can get my Mod Podge open. Ugh. Gosh. In my drawer once, it fell to the side, and it was about impossible to get open because all the adhesive went around the rim, and it did not want to open. I about killed my hand trying to open it, but yeah. So I'm going to get my Mod Podge here, and I'm going to put this here as a guide for how long I need my line of glue to be. I'm going to make this a wider line. I know I don't need it to be this tall of a line, but I'm going to give it, I'll make sure it's really lots of glue on there so these do not peel at all, because we do not want that. And then I'm just going to set it down on the chipboard. And we're going to wait for it to dry. And as soon as it's dry, we will be right back. And I forgot to show you guys what the brayer was for. And if you don't have a brayer, you can use the bone folder. You can just use it to really smooth out any air bubbles and to really get every little square millimeter of paper covered with adhesive. So there we go. And if you see a brayer used a lot and you want one, they're in like the stamping section of craft stores. So now let's wait for this to get completely dry, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we've got this. This is good and dry here, and the reason we want it to be dry is because right now you can cut out the length. I wouldn't go ahead and cut out individual letters yet, because that's gonna cause you a lot of trouble, unnecessary trouble. But I'm actually going to leave these. I'm just going to leave this line on the chipboard when I do this next step, and that is adding the glossy accents or your glossy Mod Podge. And so I'm gonna put a good thick line all the way across. Hopefully you guys can see how thick that line is. And this paintbrush just kind of, look what I just did. I broke my paintbrush. It's a piece of poop anyway, so that's okay. So get another little foam brush here. So I'm going to use a foam brush now, and I'm going to just smooth it all over. And what you may want to do later is actually put another layer on there. It just depends on what it looks like, and if you want to do a really cool texture is, I've gone horizontally, but once it's dry and you add more, you can go back and do it vertical. And let me just see how well this, or how thickly this was spread on there, which was not much, because a lot of it, the foam brush with glossy accents, it'll absorb a lot of it. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab another paintbrush that I have, and didn't want to use this paintbrush, but I'm desperate. Okay, so you got it here, another thick line there, and just going to brush it brush it on. So you're better off using a paintbrush with the glossy accents, because the foam brush, it'll absorb most of it. So I got it really good. If you're using a brush, you definitely want to get this cleaned up as quickly as possible, because the glossy accents dries fast and you don't want your brush to get all stiff and end up breaking it. I can't believe that happened. So while I wait for the glossy accents to dry and while I go clean my paintbrush, I will go ahead and stop the video and we'll start back up with the next step. Okay, so my glossy accents, they're there, or it is dry. It's kind of hard to say because it's just one glue, but the name is plural, so I'm not really sure how the grammatically proper way to say that is. Okay, so I'm using some, it's pretty lightweight chipboard. It's thicker than like a cereal box, but it's not super thick. So what I'm actually going to do is grab my Mod Podge again, and I'm going to glue it down again on my chipboard. If you have some thicker chipboard to begin with, then this is totally unnecessary. But it's probably easier to cut if you do this on several layers, because then you're just cutting one layer at a time. Get lots of adhesive on here. This video will have a lot of stops and coming back and fade in, fade out. It's because some of these have drying times and some of the parts are time consuming. And with my other letters that I did the other day, I actually glued them down using my ATG, so that was really simple. And I'm just going to use my finger to really get this down, because the brayer, I don't know if it'll really have that big of an effect through a layer of chipboard. So got that down, and Mod Podge dries pretty quickly if you don't use a really thick layer of it. So I'm just cutting my strip of letters out. Okay, so I've got a good thickness here, and you can keep doing this until you get the thickness you want. But I'm done for right now. So real quick, let me put my lid back on my Mod Podge, and then you're just going to cut each letter out individually. And there's lines there, so you can see where to cut. And because I'm using two layers, when I cut this, the letter's going to go flying like that. Don't want to go flying off my table. Okay. And this is the bad part about putting it on extra layers of chipboard. I should be using my other scissors that will actually cut through wire and metal, and they're great. I don't have to use wire cutters a lot of the time. I can just use those scissors, and they still cut paper perfectly. But I don't like to use those on anything that has adhesive on it. Okay, so I've got all these letters cut out. Now is the step where you're going to use your archival ink. And this is where it's good because it doesn't smear because of the glossy accents. You want it to still hold the ink. With like a dye ink or water-based ink like Distress ink, and it takes so long to dry that by the time you finish, by the time you're done inking the edges around here, inking around the edges, you're gonna have pulled a lot of the ink off with your fingers, and your fingers are gonna be filthy. Mine look pretty good so far. And you can use any inking tool you like. It doesn't matter on these. So you would just do this to every letter, and this actually is a really important part. You think, oh well, real Scrabble letters don't have, inked edges, but this actually really helps bring the letters out when they're put on a page. It really does. It's worth the time to go ahead and ink. And if you're doing all the letters at once and you don't want to go ahead and ink all at once, you can do that and just ink as you go when you're ready for the tile on a project, when you go through and pick out your letters. So I have these all done, and that is where you have all of your tiles. So you just do that with every letter that you want to cut out, or all of them at once if you're choosing to do that, like the tutorial. And you have faux Scrabble letters, and they look amazing. Honestly, they're just the coolest thing. So hopefully this video, it wasn't too, I know it was a long intro, and I apologize for that, but the tutorial itself was pretty simple and pretty short. So enjoy this project, guys, and let me know if you guys try this and what you think. So I'd love to see what you guys do with these, because I can't even imagine all the cool projects that you could use these on and effects you could get. So thank you so much for watching, and thank you to Lisa for allowing me to do this video tutorial. I hope I did an okay job and did your tutorial justice. And again, guys, be sure to check out her blog, because not only is this tutorial awesome, she has a lot of other really cool tutorials, like flower tutorials are amazing, a faux envelope tutorial that I used on my layout. It's just, she's got a lot of and she's very creative, and she has a lot of talent too. Everything she comes up with is beautiful. So check her out. Check out the link in the description box below, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.